7 of the limericks, which we heard a couple already tonight. These are just a few more. These are great, by the way, if anybody hasn't read them. There wasn't no person of Bromley whose ways were not cheerful or comely. He sat in the dust eating spiders and crushed that old unpleasing old person of Bromley. There was an old man in the marsh whose manners were feudal and harsh. He sat on a log and sang songs to a frog, that instructive old man in a marsh. There was an old person of Fife who was greatly disgusted with life. They sang him a ballad and fed him on salad, which cured that old person of Fife. There was an old man on the border who lived in the utmost disorder. He danced with the cat and made tea in his hat, which vexed all the folks on the border. There was an old man of West Dumpit who possessed a large nose like a trumpet. When he blew it aloud, it astonished the crowd and was heard through the whole of West Dumpit. There was an old man of Vesuvius who studied the words of Vitruvius. The flames burned his books, so to drinking he took that morbid old man of Vesuvius. There was an old lady whose folly induced her to sit on a holly. Whereon by a thorn, her dress being torn, she quickly became melancholy. She quickly became melancholy.
And off to travel again. Lear had come to Her Majesty's attention by way of his published journals, illustrated of his trips round Italy. He did not much care for winter in England, as is obvious here from a letter to a friend. We are indeed a great people, in spite of our climate. But for those fools and obstinates who speak of liking all this filth and horror, forgetting the misery of the poor, I loathe them one and all. May the toes of those who lyingly profess to love winter never be warm. May they cease to know the difference between their toes and their fingers, and may both be turned to icicles and afterwards mixed up in ice creams which may they eat, not unaccompanied with fragile biscuits. The rest of his life he would earn his living drawing and painting famous views and exotic locales, seldom seen in those days but by the most adventurous and the rich. Lear was, in fact, one of the most traveled artists, one of the most traveled gentlemen of his time. They went to sea in a sieve, they did. In a sieve they went to sea, in spite of all their friends could say, on a winter's morn, on a stormy day, in a sieve they went to sea. And when the sieve turned round and round, and everyone cried, "You'll all be drowned," they called aloud, "Our sieve ain't big, but we don't care a button, we don't care a fig, in a sieve we'll go to sea." Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. They sailed away in a sieve, they did. In a sieve they sailed so fast, with only a beautiful pea-green veil tied with a ribbon by way of a sail to a small tobacco pipe mast. And everyone said, who saw them go, "Oh, won't you be soon upset, you know, for the sky is dark and the voyage is long. And happen what may, it's extremely wrong, in a sieve to sail so fast." Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. The water it soon came in, it did. The water it soon came in. So to keep them dry, they wrapped their feet in pinky paper all folded neat, and they fastened it down with a pin. And they passed the night in a crockery jar, and each of them said, "How wise we are. Though the sky be dark and the voyage be long, yet we never can think we were rash or wrong, while round in our sieve we spin." Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. And all night long they sailed away, and when the sun went down, they whistled and warbled a moony song to the echo of a coppery gong in the shade of the mountains brown. O Timbaloo, how happy we are when we live in a sieve in a crockery jar. And all night long in the moonlight pale they sail away with a pea-green sail in the shade of the mountains brown. Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. They sailed to the western sea, they did, to a land all covered with trees, and they bought an owl and a useful cart, and a pound of rice and a cranberry tart, and a hive of silvery bees. And they bought a pig, and some green jackdaws, and a lovely monkey with lollipop paws, and 40 bottles of ringbo-ree, and no end of Stilton cheese. Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. And in 20 years they all came back. In 20 years or more, and every one said how tall they've grown, for they've been to the lakes and the Torrible Zone and the hills of the Chankly Bore, and they drank their health and gave them a feast of dumplings made of beautiful yeast. And everyone said, if we only live, we too will go to sea in a sieve to the hills of the Chankly Bore. Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green, and their hands are blue, and they went to sea